Drivers, start your engines! The Lapped Traffic Podcast has brought you over 300 shows, driver and media interviews, awesome stories and entertainment, and one of the coolest fantasy leagues around. Get ready for another exciting season. Sit back, relax, and try not to get lapped. Now, here is your host, the Professor, Brendan Crown!
What is up, Lap Traffic Nation? Welcome to episode 334 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. I am your host, the Professor, Brandon Crowd. How is everyone doing? It is great to be back with you all. I've missed doing this. I have missed you all. I can't believe it has been 5 weeks since I last posted a show. It's hard to keep a following and the momentum when you have that kind of a break. But, you know, what's been going on? Well, life has been going on. Life is busy, especially when you're in the midst of kind of starting up your own company. So being busy is a good thing. I will take that. But it's a bummer that I just have not found the time to be able to put the effort that I want to be able to put into doing this. I could throw 20 minutes out there, but the quality of that 20 minutes, what would it be? Probably not that great. I want to be able to give you guys substance and something that's enjoyable. So I'm finally here and able to do that with you guys. You know, the days are crazy. They typically, and they're so routine, which is crazy as well. My day typically starts when the little guy gets up. You know, we get up, get him ready for daycare, which, you know, it's funny that the toddler stage, it's funny and enjoyable, but there's all that frustration too. You get to watch this little human being so full of life and curiosity. And it's fun to watch that, but, oh, man, the stubbornness is real. You know, what should be, you know, total time, 20 minutes to get ready for daycare is 60 to 90-minute process, right? Because we're, you know, on Alden's time. And depending on what he's in the mood to do, that obviously stretches that out. Once I drop him off at daycare, you know, then I do some part-time underwriting as I'm growing the business, catering business, that is, you know, and I normally underwrite from, you know, 8 to 12:30. After that, I'm either going to Costco or Gordon's to get stuff for upcoming events, sending out quotes and invoices, some random stuff around the house, pick Alden up, dinner, bath, bed, repeat, you know, so that's what's going on. Good news is we've done 12 catering events. I had 3 last week alone, which was awesome. Nothing really too much until second week of June, but that week I've got 6 events in 8 days with the potential of 7. So it is absolutely crazy. July and August are a little thin, but I'm sure those dates will fill in as well. You know, I talked about doing another podcast, which it is like legit ready to go. Social media handles are created, websites created. I've even got the first show written. I just haven't had the time, which I guess is a good thing. I haven't had time to do the one I've been doing for 7+ years, let alone starting up a new one. But who knows? Maybe eventually at some point we'll get that one dropped and all that good stuff. You know, the downfall is, as I mentioned, I haven't done a show in 5 weeks. It's hard because I don't want you guys to forget about good old lap traffic. So I plan to pump these out as often as I can to stay as relevant as I can. I do need to up my game on social media or I'm never going to be able to give some of these prizes away. So I will try to make a better effort in that while we are in some downtimes here and there. So that's what's going on. That's what's new with me. Enough about me. What a weekend of racing we had. What a weekend of racing we're going to have. Memorial weekend, the best weekend for racing. And I am so excited for tonight's guest because it is going to be a good conversation with the legendary Jeff Striegle, as well as making his first debut on the show. The driver of the number 3, Austin Dillon, is going to be on the show as well. So let's not waste any more time of me babbling. Let's get to some content for what you guys are here for. Let's get Mr. Jeff Striegle back on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his 30th appearance on the show. He needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyways. You'll find him at one of the greatest short tracks in the world, Berlin Raceway, and you'll hear him calling your favorite races on the radio. Welcome back to the Lap Traffic Podcast, the voice of MRN Radio. Mr. Jeff Striegle, sir, how are you?
I'm good, Brandon. How are you? And the unofficial beginning of summer lies directly ahead this weekend, right?
Yeah, man. Memorial, Coke 600, Indy 500, Monaco. I mean, this is the greatest racing weekend of the year, right? In terms of coverage, content. I mean, there's a lot of racing to be had this weekend.
Yeah, and you can go all the way down to the short track level. Everybody's going to have their firework display going. I mean, it's a great weekend to be a race fan. Whether you're an open wheel fan and Indy is going to be, grabbing all of your attention, or the Coke 600, like you said, for NASCAR, obviously Formula One racing at Monaco. Everybody, whether it's a short track, big track, has got big plans for this weekend, and you're right. It's just a good time to be a race fan.
Absolutely. We'll all talk about the fantastic weather, not just across Indy, not just across Charlotte, the world, the amount of hot dogs and hamburgers and pork butts that are going to be cooked and smoked this weekend. I can only imagine. And, there's something for everybody, and there'll be a lot of crossover, which is awesome too. You'll get the casual viewers from NASCAR switching to Indy, and the casual Indy viewers switching over to NASCAR. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm going to take you back. Not that you asked, but this is where I got my start, and I'll always credit my dad for the start. This was many years ago, back before they ever did the Indianapolis 500 live. If you remember, if you're old enough, you'll remember that they would always tape delay that broadcast. And I'm going to guess that I was probably 10 years old. And on Memorial Day weekend, on that Sunday, my dad would grab his transistor radio and say, "Come on, son, we're going to go sit in the backyard." And you're right, the grill would be on with hot dogs and hamburgers. And he would twist in his little transistor radio to a local station here in town and bring in the greatest spectacle in racing. And we would sit out in the backyard and listen to live coverage of the Indianapolis 500. And I was hooked right there. I couldn't see a thing. I didn't have to, because the voices and the car noise that I was listening to for 3 hours had me hooked. And so my introduction into auto racing really comes from a transistor radio in the backyard listening to the Indianapolis 500, and that was a long time ago, Brandon, but I have been hooked ever since.
I love everything about that story. And see, that's where I'm glad I didn't ask, because, then we would, I'm glad you just brought that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard that. So that's fantastic.
Let me add to that. I'm going to, and again, you didn't ask, but that tradition has lasted with me, and I'm going to tell you, so it's probably been 50 years. It's been more than that. I hate to even think. That tradition has lasted with me forever, and I'll tell you why. So no matter, even though that we can sit down and watch it on TV, even if I'm in front of a TV, I turn on the radio, I bring in IMS radio, and I will listen to the pre-race coverage, the scene sets when they take you around the racetrack, and I will listen to 5 laps of the Indianapolis 500 on radio. Whether I can see it on TV or not, it does not matter. But that is a tradition that has been with me from the beginning, and it will always last until I'm not here. So, if anybody's looking for just really good radio, tune them in, because those first few laps and around the racetrack and how they bring it in, you don't need a television set. You know exactly what they're seeing, and you know exactly what's going on. And when they come off turn number 4 and the green flag goes in the air, I don't need a television set to feel like I'm right there sitting in the grandstands.
No, I love that. And even take it outside of the racing world. There are certain times where you just want to hear. You want to let your mind do that imagination. Jeff, I'll do that with you sometimes. I'll turn on. I'll pull up the app and listen to you with the race on the TV. There's something about Dan Dickerson's call of a Tigers game, even though they're a bit hard to watch and listen to. But there's just something about hearing those voices that you've grown accustomed to hearing on the radio side of things, and the stories that can be told, the pictures that can be painted. There's something to be said about that. That art, it's an art form, and I love everything about that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Indy, let's keep with Indy for a minute here. NASCAR's own Kyle Larson pulling double duty. We haven't had that in a minute. And he showed up the field at Indy this past weekend.
I just put a simple tweet out there after he had qualified in round one, and I just said, Kyle Larson is a beast. It doesn't matter. I really like the fact that he's doing this, and here's why. Because I think if somebody was to ask me right now who is the most versatile, all-time best driver on the planet, and you and I have discussed this before, I immediately think of Tony Stewart.
Sure.
Tony Stewart could drive a short track car in any type of car, stock car, midget, super modified, wing sprint car. He could do it on dirt. He could do it on asphalt. Fast forward, he ran the Rolex 24, and he was remarkable at it. He drove in the Indianapolis 500. He is a 3-time champion at the Cup level, and now he's doing the same thing behind the wheel of a top fuel dragster. Nobody has that resume. Nobody. And Kyle Larson doesn't have that resume, not yet. But he is writing that resume, and to see him go to Indianapolis, climb into the seat of that car on rookie day and rip off the laps that he was doing, that opened everybody's eyes. And then to see him practice and then ultimately qualify into the top 12, qualify into the top 6, and put that car middle of the second row for the Indianapolis 500. He is yet to make a mistake, and hopefully he won't. I just think is remarkable. I think it just showcases his unbelievable God-given talent whenever he gets into anything, and I don't think he's going to disappoint anybody when they drop the green flag. He is just that talented, and he's getting the opportunity to showcase it now on a completely different stage.
Absolutely. No, and what, like you said, you love the fact that he's doing this, and one of the reasons why I love it is because, I'm a NASCAR fan, right? Like, I watch NASCAR. That's my thing. I've always, had the tradition really since I really became a bigger and bigger racing fan, probably the last 10 to 15 years of making sure I tune in to Indy, and I have Indy on. And now that, Detroit with their race, those are the two big races of Indy that I'll watch. So the fact that Kyle Larson is going to be going over there and making that crossover move, just knowing the amount of NASCAR fans that are going to have their eyes on that Sunday afternoon before the Coke 600. I'm big on crossover promotions, and I love everything about it.
I'm big on crossover promotions when they work. I mean, anybody has the opportunity to attempt to try to get a seat and then attempt to get into a race. I mean, nobody's going to be interested in watching me get into a cup car and try to make my way into the Daytona 500 because, one, I can't get the job done and I will look foolish. But with Kyle, you think, okay, Kyle Larson, he's going to drive in the Indy 500. Can he do it? Will he do it? What's it going to look like? And then when he has the opportunity to finally get into the car and show his true talent, now I'm interested. I'm very interested. And, I just expect that he's going to do well. I was just thinking while you were talking, can you imagine what type of shoulders Kyle Larson must have, or the ice in his veins? Because he's already, it's not lost on him that millions, thousands of people are going to be tuned into that race simply to watch him, to see what he does.
Yeah.
Not only do you, not only has he got the pressure of, okay, I'm getting ready to go race on a track where I'm going to be running 230 miles an hour all day long, and one simple mistake is going to end up into disaster. That's pressure enough. But then to realize that the eyes of the NASCAR world are going to be on you, or the eyes of the IndyCar world, to see what this NASCAR invader is capable of doing, that's pressure. I think that's pressure that we can't even begin to imagine what that's like. So, the fact that he's been able to go out and do what he's done so far is remarkable. And it just goes and screams the talent that he actually has. Now we all get to watch it on display on Sunday. And I know I speak for everybody. Whether you're a Kyle Larson fan or not, I think everybody that is certainly a NASCAR flag waver is hoping for all the best for Kyle.
Absolutely. Great way to say that. All right, let's transition over to this past weekend, the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. A lot of interesting things to come out of the weekend from the racing. I want to get your thoughts on a snip from Denny Hamlin and his podcast, where I'm not going to quote directly, but the overall version of what he said is that Logano's win is an afterthought due to what happened, between Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse. Is it possible that Logano's win, because it was so dominant and not a points race, is that where he may have, the ability to make that statement?
Well, I know that you follow social media. I know you're on it. So am I. I have yet to see a picture or a post of a celebrating Team Penske and Joey Logano, either on the front straightaway or a picture of him or anything. He won $1 million.
Right.
Whether he has $1 million in his back pocket or not, I think is irrelevant. He won $1 million. He won the All-Star race. I have yet to see anything posted about him. It is all about, obviously, Kyle and Ricky. It's everywhere. Every single camera, I got this shot, I got this angle, I've got this punch, I've got this thrown off the lift gate. So, that's just the way of the world, unfortunately. Did it steal the thunder? 100%, or certainly 99%. I'm sure we could probably go back to some of the fans that either watched it, listened to it, or were there in person and go, who won the race? And we're liable to get some that will say, I don't even remember, but man, what about that fight?
Yeah.
It stole the headlines for sure. I don't think that any of us thought it wasn't going to happen. I don't think we knew exactly what was going to happen, but we knew there was going to be an altercation. Ricky said it on TV. He said it to us on the radio. He didn't say he was going to punch him. He just said, I'll be waiting for him. He told the crew of the 8 car that let Kyle know that I'm going to be waiting for him after the race is over. That's probably the downside of not having the opportunity to escape the track and go home.
Sure.
At North Wilkesboro, you're sequestered. You're inside the racetrack. There's no way to get out. So he sat there instead of being able to get in the car and just drive home. He had to sit there and wait, couldn't leave. So, that led up to it. Everybody can talk about what the dialogue was between the two of them. Ricky was very clear that I think it was not only just for what happened on the track. That certainly was, what lit the fuse. But it sounded to me like this was something between the two of them that has been ongoing for the past year or the past several years.
Sure. Yeah, no, there was no doubt about that. I want to ask you a couple things, and then we can get off it, because it's good and bad for the sport, right? Like, it's good in the fact that it's going to create storylines, headlines, clicks, views, and maybe I'm going to definitely tune in next week because I want to see, aftermath, right? So it creates the attention, it creates the buzz. That's the good/positive, I feel like. But then there's also the negative side to that, right? Like it's, okay, we see it across all sports, someone will throw a punch, we've seen it in basketball, we've seen it in baseball, it happens, right? But it also, leads to a stigma, I feel like, in terms of, leave it to the rednecks to go doing, it doesn't create a positive light from that regard, So how do you draw the balance line, I guess, with that?
Well, I don't think you can draw the line because there's nothing that you and I or NASCAR as a sanctioning body or IndyCar or this short track or that short track is ever going to do to stop it. And that's true. I just want to make a comparison, too. There's nothing that Major League Baseball can do to stop it. They already have rules in place that say if you're going to get yourself involved, these are going to be the repercussions.
Sure.
We know that in football. We know it in baseball. We know it in basketball. We know it in auto racing. I hate it. You know this because we've talked about it before. I mean, how do we see a short track in the middle of nowhere suddenly make social media? It wasn't because of the great pass that somebody made on somebody coming to the checkered flag. It becomes the fight that took place after the race. You're making headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Yep.
I don't like it. I certainly don't like it in the short track level at all. We frown on it here at Berlin Raceway. I don't want to see it. And if we do see it, we're going to take immediate action to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I think, we can all look at it and go, man, it's all fun and games right up until somebody gets hurt. Seriously.
Sure. Yep.
And, in hockey, when somebody gets, tagged with a stick, you hurt somebody, you send somebody to the hospital, you could end their career. When you get a fight that sometimes manages to become more than just one-on-one, and now 2 people are involved, and now 5, and now 7, now 10, and that thing escalates out of control. We see it in baseball when you have a baseball brawl.
Yep.
If it's just a pitcher and a batter, okay, let them throw punches. But when all of a sudden the bullpens empty out and the dugouts empty out, now you've got a flat-out brawl, and somebody's going to go away hurt.
Sure.
So, what we saw, unfortunately, made every news clip. Again, nobody talking about Joey Logano.
Right.
And these are news clips and pieces coming from sports channels and whatnot that don't even talk about our sport, but yet they find it important to go and highlight and showcase altercation between 2 of our drivers or 2 of our teams. So, yeah, it's something that we're always going to have to deal with.
Yep.
I don't like it in our sport. I don't like it in any sport, but it's also something that, it's going to happen, and all we can do is manage it and break it up. And I thought, for the most part, the people down there use some common sense. I mean, obviously, there's a couple of crew members that have become very famous, and they're famous for the right reason, because they tried to de-escalate the situation rather than just jump into the thing and start throwing punches.
Sure.
So, there's a lot, when you look at the bad situation, I thought there was also some positives on the other side.
Absolutely. All right. Well, last piece to this, and then we can move on. 30 seconds. Ricky Stenhouse's dad got involved, right? It's one thing for driver, crew, it's one thing from that regard. Personally, first thing that came to mind was I could potentially see NASCAR to make a statement, whether it, for the rest of the year, maybe taking a hard card away or something like that.
So, I mean, I'm not going to play NASCAR here.
Sure.
And that, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's my take on it. And this is what I just said about baseball. It's one thing when the pitcher and the batter go at it, but when other people get involved, that's where I have a big issue. You look at hockey and you come off the bench and you're going to be sitting out for a long time. And now it is, if a fight takes place, it's usually at the most, it can be 5-on-5.
Right.
But when you're the third person in, I have an issue with that. If you're the third person in, you're the fourth person in, you're the fifth person, because at that point, all you're doing is escalating the situation and not de-escalating that. Obviously, Ricky was upset.
Yep.
He wanted to make sure Kyle knew about it. But when you add others into the altercation, that's when I think you have to say, okay, who was involved, who escalated, who de-escalated, and I want a list of those that escalated the situation. And if anything needs to be handed out penalty-wise, I would be looking at those individuals first.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. On to some more positive news. Let's go back to our last points race at Darlington. Always a great time with Darlington. Brad Keselowski breaks 90 race winless streak at Darlington. This is something that we've been waiting a long time for, is to see that 6 car with Brad Keselowski in victory lane. What did you think of that one?
Well, you put yourself in position to win. And again, that's something that you and I have talked about many, many times. You've got to be able to be in position to win, so that if something like a Tyler Reddick, Chris Buescher situation happens, you're there. Was he going to win that race if those two don't get together? No, he would have finished third.
Sure.
But that is a team that is showcasing speed week in and week out. They're putting themselves in position to win. Have they been the absolute fastest car on the racetrack week in and week out? No. Of late, yes. Buescher's showing speed. He showed it at Kansas. He showed it at Darlington. That's a fast race car, and they've got their program turned around, I think, as we get ready to head into the second half of the regular season. Brad is right there as well. Nobody was more happy about his win than me. I'm sure there's some Brad Keselowski fans out there that say we're happy too, and I don't mean that in any type of disrespect. I mean, I'm glad that Brad Keselowski has an opportunity to celebrate with RFK in victory lane, and here's why. It's simple. They were not headed that direction before Brad became part of that ownership. You and I, again, talked about it several times, the things that he did when he, was invited in as ownership. He changed everything, and he changed it for the right reason, and it immediately was showing results. And Chris Buescher has been to victory lane. He ripped off 3 in a row last year. That was fantastic for that organization. But I wanted that individual who's still driving behind the wheel to be able to go to victory lane and celebrate, because a lot of their success, if not all of their success, it's not all, has to be credited back to the changes that Brad made when he came into the ownership role. So I was very pleased to see Brad have that opportunity.
Absolutely. We've seen it over the last, 90 races, basically. We've seen some second place finishes. We've seen some third place finishes, a couple top fives, we've seen him lose a few. So like you said, back to your original point of putting himself in position to win, him and Chris Buescher are some of the lone Fords that are actually showing speed that, that was the first Ford points paying winner of 2024. So, it's a good thing to see, because, we've talked about for years, Jeff, we would, or I would harp on, and I would force you to talk about, is Chevy struggling? Is Chevy back? When can we say Chevy's back? We're teetering around that line with Ford right now.
I'm not sure which Ford team right now is actually the leader in the garage. I don't know if it's Team Penske. I don't know if it's RFK. And I don't know that it's not Front Row Motorsports, because when you look at what Michael McDowell and Todd Gilliland are doing on the racetrack, oftentimes they have the front-running Ford Mustang dark horse.
Sure.
They have not been able to close out a green to checkered flag run, but they are fast cars. Todd Gilliland, and it's, all you got to do is look up the stat. Their crew on pit road for a 4-tire average pit stop with fuel is among the worst. Well, it's hard to win when you're running 8th and you take your car to pit road and you come back out in your 12th. You do that again the next one, and you're back to 15th. That's hard to win races. They need to get that buttoned up. They've got fast cars. They just need to do a better job from green to checkered flag. They're bringing good cars to the track. The drivers are getting everything they can out of them. But, you know, we talk about it all the time with you on the radio, on TV. We all get it. You make a mistake on pit road, even if it's the driver busted for speeding or the crew just didn't get the job done on that particular pit stop. At this level, at the cup level,
Sure. Yep.
You can't overcome that. It's too hard to win. You can't win and make a mistake somewhere, either behind the wheel or on pit road. So, you know, going back, which one of those 4 teams is carrying the banner? I'm not sure yet. RFK has shown a lot of speed. Looks like they're ready to, you know, to run up front. Is this a turnaround for Team Penske? They've been good the last couple of weeks. So maybe as a manufacturer, they found something, and we are soon to find out as we get ready to head off to Charlotte and Gateway or Worldwide Technology. So we're going to know very soon whether Fords are back for real or whether there was just a blip in the radar.
Great segue. It's like, you know what I've got on my sheet here because we've been doing this so many times. We're a third of the way done, 2024, officially halfway done in the regular season. We know who's impressed so far: Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron. You know, there's still a lot still chasing the first win of 2024. Who do you look to turn it up, and who do you think's got the potential to turn it up in the second half of the regular season as we roll into the summer stretch?
Well, if you're saying who's getting ready to turn their season around, maybe Christopher Bell bubbles up to the top. I picked Christopher Bell before the Daytona 500 to win the championship. They either have a top 5 finish or they have a 30th or worst finish. And I believe they have more 30th, don't quote me here, but I think they have more 30th place or worse finishes than they do top 10s. I know they have more than top 5s. You know, I just expected this to be a breakout season for Bell. Not that he needs to have it because he's had, you know, back-to-back runs for a championship. And I just thought, okay, maybe this is a year that Bell gets, you know, 4, 5, 6 wins. But this has been the most inconsistent good team out there. Bell is somebody that's got to get it turned around. Back before the Daytona 500, you and I chatted, and I thought the headlines going into the season were the teams like a Front Row, like a Trackhouse, like a 2311. Some of those, based on points now, mid-tier teams.
Sure.
We get Gibbs, we get Hendrick, you know, we get Penske. Was SHR was on that list too. What type of year were they going to have? Would they improve? Would they stay the same? Or would they backpedal? I don't think I've seen those teams excel to the point that I thought they might. You know, Chastain has been good. Has he been great? Probably not. His teammate, Daniel Suarez, good, not great. You look at Trackhouse and Tyler and Bubba. Have they been good? Yes. Have they been great? And when I say great, that's comparing them to Joe Gibbs. That's comparing them to Hendrick Motorsports. That's comparing them to the top teams in the garage.
Yep.
And I thought, Brandon, that maybe one of these teams would join that list. It's a very short list.
Yeah.
Hard to get there.
Yeah.
Hard to get on that list. Hard to get on that list. But I just haven't seen that yet. So does the second half of the season, you know, tell the tale? Do some of these teams find it, figure it out, and all of a sudden we see driver X or driver Z suddenly bubble to the top? It's like we did with Chris Buescher last year.
Right.
You know, we didn't.
Right.
I don't think anybody expected to see Chris Buescher rip off 3 wins in a row in the second half of the regular season, but they did.
Yep.
So whatever they did in the first half of the season, they did a little homework. They figured it out, and suddenly he was going to be a factor and a driver that was going to race for a championship.
Yes, absolutely. And while you were talking there, I looked it up. Christopher Bell, 5 finishes in 13 races of 30th or worst.
Yeah.
That's
called inconsistency, my friend.
Yes, yes, sir.
I know they hate it. They hate it, and they're doing everything in their power to figure out why and how to fix it. But that's a tough stat for, a top tier team.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Jeff, a random topic here on charters. We know there's negotiations kind of going on between owners and NASCAR. We know these have extended a little bit past what the initial, expected deadlines and things were. What can you tell us about, or can you share or clarify, what are they talking about? What are they looking to accomplish with the renegotiation side of things with the charter system?
Well, I'm probably gonna stay off that topic for a number of different reasons. I think what we all need to understand is that there's 36 charters, and those charters are owned by the race teams. Then you have NASCAR, and NASCAR has broadcast rights. They own racetracks. They have a way of revenuing differently than what the race team owners are. Let's call it Roger Penske and Rick Hendrick and Joe Gibbs and et cetera. Obviously it's no different maybe than with any other regular sport that we have. Are the Detroit Lions a charter to the NFL? Essentially, I suppose you could look at it that way.
Sure.
I don't think you're ever going to find a time or day where, let's put you on the NASCAR side and me on the charter side, Brandon. I don't think there's ever going to be a day when you and I are going to agree that the revenue sharing is optimal for both parties. You're always going to be looking to say, you're doing this, but we don't get that, or we get this and you don't get that. I think it's going to be complicated. It is complicated.
Yeah.
I should say it's going to get muddied along the way. Not everybody is going to be happy with every single decision. If that's the case, then I think they probably all made bad decisions. But, I'm interested to be a bystander in this one. As we all get, if we're not behind the door of that private meeting, for anyone to speculate on that, I think they're making a mistake. I don't know what every single cliff note that needs to be discussed and how it's being discussed. I don't know exactly what charters are asking for. I don't know what NASCAR is looking at. And until such time that we know all of those details, I think for any of us, I think it would be a bad opportunity to speculate.
I can appreciate that 100%, and I love the way you spelled that out for the listeners out there for sure. Jeff, two quick things here, and we can wrap this bad boy up. Tonight, episode 334 of season 8 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Your debut, episode 59, season 2, back in 2018. 30 appearances over the last 7 years. You have been a staple on the show, man. Anything that sticks out to you about some of the fun we've had over the last 7 years?
Yeah, the debates that we've had, obviously, I like the candor, the transparency, the questions that you provide. Do I always have the answers to them? Absolutely not. I'm not one that likes to speculate. You know that.
Yes.
I like to be able to say, yes, it's this way and here's why, or it's whether you agree or disagree, or whether it's not accurate and here's why, or at least here's, my thought. But, it's fun because we've covered a lot of territory. I think most importantly, if I've been on 30 times, hopefully the folks that find your podcast to be number one, hopefully I've been a small part of that, and that people appreciate my thoughts. Again, whether you agree with them or not, we talk a lot about respect. We talk about Kyle Busch when he's the most hated driver out there. And I said, you know what, love him or hate him, you got to respect what he's done. He's a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
I get the fact that, people don't, like the M&M's car back when he was driving it, or you didn't like the interview that he gave. It's like, that's cool. You don't have to be his fan, but you also don't have to throw a beer can at him, because that isn't what I want to see in our sport. I do like, to think that we've got favorites and those that we root against. That's good. I like that. Right now, Denny Hamlin plays that role perfectly.
Yeah.
He's the new villain.
Yeah.
But you still have to respect that individual. We don't know that individual. We don't know what he's like away from the track. All we see and hear a lot of times is what we see on TV or hear on the radio. These are good people. They're all good people. And, those people make up the sport that we love. Denny Hamlin is another future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, when he decides it's time to hang up his helmet. And I hope that doesn't come for a long time. I think we've covered a lot of territory. Like you said earlier, we talked a lot about Chevrolet a couple of years back when they were struggling. And so, again, I just hope it's been entertaining, for the past several years, and the opportunities that I've been on have always been fun.
And I appreciate the dedication because, we average between 30 to 60 minutes every time, 30 shows. It doesn't take much to do the math on the commitment that you've given, which I truly appreciate. Jeff, what's coming up at Berlin over the next few weeks?
We got a lot. I appreciate that. You caught me a little off guard. I'm standing out here on an absolutely gorgeous day. It's going to be about 84 degrees. There's not a cloud in the sky. We get ready. We were talking about to start the show. We're getting ready for Memorial Day here, and we were just meeting on, making sure that the fireworks are ready to go and all the different ways that we're going to honor Memorial Day weekend here. So it'll be a regular show, but it won't be long. We've got the Arca Menard series that will be at the Berlin Raceway, one of their few short tracks. They'll be here again. They've been coming here for 60 years. So we'll be welcoming them. The Wing Sprints will be coming up. Obviously, we've got the Super Modified show, and that's something I just take a second. July 12, July 13. All of those drivers off the East Coast, from Ohio all the way up to New York and on up into the Eastern Seaboard, those drivers will be here. That is a spectacular show. Super Modified's the only time they visit the state of Michigan. And then, of course, Money in the Bank and Battle at Berlin are two big super late model shows. Our first one is Wednesday, coming up mid-June. And then the Tecton 250 Battle at Berlin, $40,000 to win. The second richest first place payoff in super late model racing. And, the list of drivers that we have that will be up here for that are typically who's who. So there's a lot going on. You know that. You live on the other side of the state. You see what we're doing. You're here, and I appreciate that. People can check us out. Go to our Facebook page. Just search Berlin Raceway. It's got everything that anybody would need if they want to come over and watch some good asphalt short track racing.
I love it. There was actually somebody in one of the local Metro Detroit Facebook groups that had put something on, where's a track local for racing? And I literally said, well, listen, it ain't local, but do yourself a favor, because there's reasonably priced hotels. Go drive about 2.5 hours to depending on what your speed limit appetite is, and go out to Berlin. You will not be disappointed. Reach out to me if you have any questions. So I'm plugging you all over the place.
Well, and I'm going to just tip a cap to the track a little closer to you, Owasso Speedway. There are a lot of great tracks in the state of Michigan,
yes.
And I'm going to leave one out when I say dirt tracks of Merritt and Hartford, asphalt tracks at Flat Rock down in the very southeastern corner of the state.
Birch Run.
There's just so many of them. But I will say that what they're doing in Owasso is, if it's not known nationally at this point, it will be. They are sinking millions, not thousands. They're sinking millions of dollars into that racetrack. You've seen the transformation. Yep. I've seen the transformation. I've yet to get there in person, but I will. You talk about trying to get out and support somebody who is doing amazing things. Make sure you put Owasso down as a place to go. And obviously, we're sinking money into this place and trying to do amazing things here, and I think we are. But the state of Michigan is not lacking for great short track racing, whether it's dirt or asphalt.
I love it. Jeff, I assume we can put in pen appearance 31 and 32 traditionally, as we have done since you've started on the show. Our pre and post MIS shows coming up here. August will be here just before we know it, but I'm going to try and let summer, take its time so we can enjoy it.
You got it. Buy a ticket for MIS. I know their infield is sold out. Camping is sold out on the infield. The package that we have right now in NASCAR, and you know this, Brandon, the package that we have creates great racing at Michigan International Speedway. Joe Fowler and his team over at MIS, they're doing really good things there. So if you haven't been back to MIS, put that one on your calendar. Come to the state of Michigan in the middle of August and enjoy everything the state has to offer. And I really don't. I don't think that when we have our post-race conversation after Michigan that we're going to be talking about a bad race, because, as you know, the last few years have really, really produced some great racing. So I look forward to that. As always, my friend, 31 and 32.
Excellent,
it'll be here
brother.
before we know it.
I love it. Thank you so much, man. Enjoy the holiday weekend, and we will talk to you very soon, brother.
You do the same. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. We'll see ya. I just absolutely love having Jeff Striegle on. This is show 234. He's been on for 30 of them. So 204 shows Jeff Striegle has not been on. But if I could have had him on for all 204 that he hasn't been on, I would do that. But I don't think Jeff would, he's very generous with his time. That might be a bit too much. But could you imagine if Jeff Striegle had his own podcast? I think that would be a one of the most listened to NASCAR podcasts out there. If Jeff ever decided to get behind a mic on a consistent level, breakdowns, you name it, Jeff could do it. But I know he's a very busy man between traveling and doing the radio side of things for NASCAR itself, plus Berlin. I'm grateful he finds the time to be able to come on this show. So, anyways, there's that. Cannot wait to talk to Jeff as we get closer to Michigan. And, man, I can't wait to get to Michigan. I'm ready to go see a race in person. And, there's that. All right, let's do some social media. Everybody make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, The Lap Traffic Podcast, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. Yes, there are still giveaways going on. 2 of them, in fact. I've got that framed autograph Mark Martin that we're going to give away when we hit 8,000 followers on the Lap Traffic handle. And then once we hit 500 on the @3 Crowd Catering, which shouldn't be too hard to do, we got over 7,000 following Lap Traffic. So maybe we can make a push this week, holiday weekend. Maybe we can get to 500 at @3 Crowd Catering and at least give one of these bad boys away. So there's that. Okay. We still got a little bit more content for you guys tonight with a first-time guest in Austin Dillon. So let's get the driver number 3 on the line. All right, Lap Traffic Nation, joining me on the line, making his first appearance on the show. He is a Daytona 500 winner, a Coke 600 winner, driver of the number 3 Syntex Tool Chevrolet with RCR. Welcome to the show, Austin Dillon. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Just steady, trying to get our cars on tracks here at RCR. And, man, it's been a grind, but I have faith in everyone here at RCR that if we put in the hard work, we're going to be where we need to be.
Absolutely. It's crazy to think that we are already halfway through the regular season already. It feels like Daytona was yesterday. Like you said, you guys got a little bit of work to do. What's been some of the struggles, some bad luck on the track, where are you guys at? What got you where you're at halfway through the regular season so far?
Man, to tell you the truth, we've on the 3 team, different story for the A team, have just been struggling to find pace, find what I guess I need in the race car. And, we've had some glimpses of decent days, but man, it's been a real struggle to find the speed that we need to have to compete with these guys. And, the drivability in the car, even that, it'd be different if we were just slow and driving good, but we're not driving good and we're not fast. So I think, for me, I'm studying what I can do as a driver to try and change some of my, ways to mold to this race car. I thought, after the first year of this next gen car, we really started off great and had some good runs, made the playoffs. And then last year, it kind of started going downhill mid-year, and we haven't been able to recover from that, it seems like, just a funk that we've been in. So I've got to do my part, and everybody in here at RCR just got to dig in and really go to work. And I think we'll be able to do that. We're a resilient group.
Absolutely. No, for sure. Are you, aside from the speed thing, right, which, obviously is a big part, do you like the new car? I mean, I know it's hit and miss from the fan side of things. It seems to be hit and miss from the driver side of things. From the car itself, assuming you get the speed, are you a fan of what the new car is giving you guys?
I am. I'm a huge fan and proponent of the racing that's going on at the front of the field. There's definitely some tracks like speedways and some of the short tracks. I feel like the racing could get better, but this car is built for the 1.5 miles, and the 1.5 miles have been great.
Sure. Absolutely. New crew chief in Justin Alexander, 6 races. How's the bond, the connection? Everyone always talks about, that driver crew chief bond that needs to be there. Is he learning your vernacular, what you're looking for with the cars, and how's that transition going?
Well, Justin's my old crew chief, and we've been together multiple times, so we kind of know each other's feelings. And I think that the communication is fine. We're just trying to find what we need in the race car, and it's a battle. And I think as we get a couple more races under our belt and get our notebook back to where it needs to be, we're calling races well. The races are being called the right way. We just haven't had a car that can really put us to the next level and compete. So we've got to figure that part out, and I think we'll be fine.
Awesome. Longer stretch here without an off week as far as, typical NASCAR schedule would go, and it's going to be a minute before you guys even get to that first off week in July. The NASCAR schedule is such a grind in and of itself. Are you looking for an off week to maybe get a reset, or does it help with the momentum in terms of just being at the shop, being at the track to try to find and hit that groove?
Yeah, I mean, off weekends help, but man, we're professionals here. We got to go to work during the week to figure this out. Every minute that we have a chance, we need to go to work on it. Because I tell you what, everybody's going to be a lot happier if we're running well.
Right, absolutely.
The off weekend will be much more enjoyed in that case.
For sure. Coming off of Darlington this past weekend, the number 3 car has had some really awesome throwback schemes at Darlington. What's a couple of your favorites that stick out as far as some of your favorites?
I love the Wrangler car. We ran really well with it. I think I finished 4th one time there. And then I had a pretty good run in the Junior Johnson throwback, the white car with the red number. It was pretty sweet. We've had a Fireball Roberts car at Darlington. Some special paint schemes for sure with Dale Earnhardt. And, man, it's been fun.
It's so cool. It's cool from the fans. A couple times I've been to Darlington. I mean, it just hits different when you pull up to Darlington, I feel like, than some other tracks. So it's a really cool and special thing that NASCAR does. I love that. And speaking of cool and special things, we are headed to the All-Star race this weekend, North Wilkesboro. What was it like racing there last year? Obviously something that the fans have been clamoring for to get back to that track. What was it like racing there?
Well, last year it was special. Go to a throwback track with some throwback fans and put everybody in there and pack it in. It was really cool. And I think this year will be too. And hopefully the racing turns out to be pretty good with the new pavement. I don't know what to expect. You got a hard and a soft tire. Hopefully guys change it up on strategy, and it makes it fun. Awesome,
man. Let's see here. What are a couple of the summer tracks as we get into the second half of the season? Obviously, after North Wilkesboro going to Charlotte, you've got the win there. Talk about the preparation going into that extra 100 miles, because it does seem to make a difference, in terms of stamina from a driver's standpoint and a team standpoint.
Well, 600-mile races have been good to me. I mean, the longer races in general, but yeah, you got to be smart. You got to have a car at the end. There's a lot that you can do adjustment-wise during that race. If you stay on the lead lap, pit stops have got to be clean. You hope that the car stays together and the driver stays together. So it's a grind and a true test endurance tests of our race cars and what we do in NASCAR.
I love it. Austin, thank you so much for calling into the show. I know you got a couple other ones probably lined up here. Give a quick shout out to sponsors and who's going to be on the car this weekend.
Yeah, Cenex Tools is with us at the Open this weekend, hopefully transferring them in the All-Star race. But Cenex Tools, man, I've enjoyed working on my hunting property all off-season, working with the chainsaws that they have. The electric chainsaw is really nice, and they provide some great tools for us here at the shop, the drills, everything that they've got. So Cenex Tools, thanks for all your support, and hopefully I see you guys at the racetrack.
Awesome, man. Austin, thanks so much for calling in. Best of luck second half of the regular season. Good luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man. Take care. We'll see ya. Well, there you have Mr. Austin Dillon. Great to have him on the show for the first time. I was looking at my guest list, which I keep track of, obviously, to be able to know who's been on and how many times and all of that good stuff. When I go to this list and I scroll down, we've got the likes of Jeff Striegle, who's been on 30 times. We've got Dustin Albino, who's been on 18 times. There have been, this is crazy. This was pretty cool. There have been 181 different people that have been on over the course of 334 shows. So that's pretty cool. So that's the motivation I need to keep this bad boy fired up and going. But let's close this thing out with some lap traffic fantasy. Don't forget, get your picks in by 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. This week, with the Coke 600, starts segment 2. So that means we got points resetting. We've got the driver picks resetting. Everything is back to fair game, starting from scratch, with the exception of the cumulative points will now be reflected on the website with the results, which will set our playoff grid. So with that being said, this past weekend at North Wilkesboro in the truck race concluded segment 1. So congratulations to our segment 1 winner, Dalton Brooks, who finished with 1,270 points, almost a 21-point lead over second place Matt Dabrowski with 1249. David Mullins in third with 1233. Stephen, DFS NASCAR guy, in fourth with 1224. Mark Luddington in fifth with 1210. Robert Riggs in sixth with 1206. Dan Sherwood in seventh with 1194. Joe Trelone in eighth with 1190. Last year's winner, Andrew Yu, comes in at number 9 with 1185. And good old Mick Rose wraps out the top 10 segment 1 with 1179. And because, hey, it's my show in my fantasy league, I'm in 11th. So I almost made the top 10. It's always a slow climb for me, but there we are nonetheless. Bonus points, Mark Luddington killing it. He's picked 8 race winners so far. Charles LaPearl's got 7. Robert Riggs has 7. Aaron Studwell, Dalton Brooks, David James, David Mullins, Matt Dembrowski, and Steven, DFS NASCAR guy, all had 6. I'm still stuck with 2, so maybe, who knows? I got 3 chances this week. Maybe I can pick at least one winner and get a couple extra bonus points going on here. That said, let's do some picks. We are headed into one of the best racing weekends in all of motorsports. We got Monaco, we got the Indy 500, we've got the Coke 600, Chevy, Ford, Toyota, all in the mix with wins over the last 3 years at Charlotte with Blaney, Hamlin, and Larson. Could Larson do the unthinkable? Could he pull off wins at Indy and Charlotte? We've seen Martin Truex Jr. dominate this race multiple times. Could he be back in victory lane this weekend? And don't sleep on that 11 car this weekend either. Points have reset. Driver selections have reset. Who starts segment 2 off with a bang? Who's got the stamina for 600 miles? We will find out this weekend. But first, it is time for my picks in the Truck Series. I am going to go with the 19 of Christian Eckes. In the Xfinity side of things, I am going to roll with the 00 of Cole Custer. And I'm going to stick with the number 19 on the Cup side of things as well. And I am going to go with Martin Truex Jr. There you have it. I can't wait to see how segment 2 starts off. And I hope everyone enjoys Memorial Weekend and racing. That is going to do it for episode 334 of the Lap Traffic Podcast. Make sure you check out the website, thelaptrafficpodcast.com, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, all at Lap Traffic PC. Huge thanks to Austin Dillon and Jeff Striegle for calling into the show. Who knows when we'll be back? I'm not even going to pretend that I know the answer to that. But don't get caught chasing the lucky dog. Tune in each and every week to the Lap Traffic Podcast. See ya!